Welcome to Saturday's Warrior. BYU just finished its Week 2 game, a matchup versus Southern Utah, one that BYU really needed to bounce back from Week 1 and show that its offense could really pull together and put up some points, especially on who's supposed to be inferior competition. And they did just that. They did score north of 40, which was the benchmark set by a lot of people seemingly. They hit 41. They allowed 16 points. So not quite the shutout they had last week. Overall, I think BYU fans most likely saw what they needed to see this week to see the offense could click. They got some big yardage plays, some explosive plays when they needed them, and were able to, most importantly, get touchdowns. And so I think that gave us what we needed to see as a baseline. I don't think, at least for me, didn't really move the needle. It doesn't really make me not concerned anymore. It just keeps me from being worried. I'm not raising any red flags, but this victory, while it does help settle some of my concerns, it definitely does not make me feel really that much better in leading up to this next week's matchup versus Arkansas. Not saying that I don't think we could do it. I think we could go in there. I think we could compete. I think there's even a chance we could go in and win. But I think BYU needs to continue to tighten some things up. That was one of my biggest takeaways from the week. But before I do get into all those takeaways, please be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. But let me look at my notes here. But that was one of them, is just that I saw more effort from the receivers blocking. It felt like the O-line certainly had more effort, but there were still too many penalties and BYU shooting themselves in their own foot. And that's not something that's, you can overcome that against SUU, but are you going to be able to overcome that against Arkansas and Kansas as we get into Big 12 play? So that is still a big concern for me. But Lassiter, it's interesting because he was one that I pinpointed a couple times in the matchup against Sam Houston, where he just got bowled over or blown past on those blocks. And he even got called out specifically by the announcers this week as setting a good block. And he was certainly active, especially in the first half. And he looked good. And so I feel really positive about that. Staying on offense, Isaac Rex is back, and you got to feel great about that. It seemed like last week they're really just trying to force it. They know they have a talented guy right there, probably trying to get him paid. But this week it really worked out, and he looked great. I do have a couple concerns. One, Slovis. So there's that. Speaking of Isaac Rex, Slovis threw that great pass that ended up being a big pickup into triple coverage, and it just he just squeezed it right in there. It was precisely where it needed to be. Isaac Rex, with the big frame that he has, went up and got it, came down, and it was a beautiful pass. But it also felt ill-advised when they showed the other angles. You saw just how covered Isaac Rex was, and so while it was an amazing play and it's an exciting highlight that we're gonna love watching, I don't know if that's one that I want him taking all the time, but certainly happy with how that one turned out. I do have another question mark in Aiden Robbins. What is going on? I mean, that is a big boy. What is his issue? Is he just not seeing holes? Or maybe it's that they're only putting him out there for specific plays that are, lower percentage, lower pickups available, whereas the other guys are put in more, position to go wide and perhaps pick up more yards, whereas Aiden Robbins is in there to bowl over people and just pick up a few yards at a time. I don't know, but it is a little concerning. We'll certainly want him as we get into tougher competition, because he's that big-bodied guy, but if he can't pick up the yards, it is a bit concerning. But it does make me feel really good about LJ Martin. He looks like a grown man out there. That run where he got off to the side and he was just breaking tackles and making guys miss, and that is exactly what we want to see. I mean, they talked about him reminding us of Tyler Algier last week. that was certainly a Tyler Algier-esque play. And so very excited about that, but would love to see a little bit more from the other guys. We did see a little bit of Sanders with his speed today. So that was offense. On defense, I was surprised last week as well. So there's Camden Garrett, and he was not a guy that I remember hearing much about during the offseason. Wasn't a name that readily came to mind, and maybe that was just me. Perhaps they were talking about him, but he's definitely made a showing in the first two games so far. So I was impressed with that. And then Tyler Batty was one that I meant to call out this last week in the video, and his name escaped me, and I don't know how. He's one of those guys that even when he's not directly in the play, when he's not the one making the tackle, he is having an impact on the game, and he has just been very impressive. Obviously, we're glad to have him on our side. So that takes us to the third phase, special teams. Marcus McKenzie on the punt coverage. I mean, when you've got Ryan Rico booting it, and then you got coverage like that with McKenzie, you feel comfortable that if you have to punt it, you can. And so while I hope we don't have to punt too often, there will be times, obviously, that it's necessary, and that definitely makes me feel better. On the other side, on the punt returning, why is Hobbs Nyberg still getting out there? I mean, perhaps today it was to give him another chance to show what he has, but and maybe he has great hands, and there's something they're seeing that they keep putting him out there. But he slipped last week, he slipped this week, and he never really seems able to break away and get those big yards off of punt returns. Whereas, I should have written it down. Now he's escaping me. The freshman receiver they put in, he grabbed. He had one or two that he took, and he was. He used his speed and was able to pick up a few yards. Let me know his name in the comments. I know I'll go look it up, but sorry, I'm forgetting that at the moment. But so I just wonder, why are they still putting Hobbs Nyberg in there? I know they don't want to, perhaps risk getting receivers injured on a special teams play, but I've just not seen it from him. And, we'd really like to have a little bit more explosion there and help flip the field in those situations. And one note that I missed going back to the defense was just the secondary looked like it got exposed a little bit today. So I am a little bit worried. We knew that we were thin because of injuries. So I hope that that's something that we can continue to scheme for and plan against, and because we certainly have depth and some talent back there. So hopefully that's something we can correct. But yeah, mostly I love seeing better effort. Want to see fewer penalties, and still have some question marks with some guys. But overall, I feel good. This is what we wanted to see from week 2 after a poor showing from the offense in week 1, and makes me feel a little better going into the game with Arkansas. But really, we won't know a whole lot about this team until we're really tested, and that is going to happen next week, and I look forward to it. So please let me know, what are your feelings after this game? Do you feel better, the same, worse? Let me know how you feel after week 2, and please be sure to like the video and subscribe, and we will see you next time. Go Cougs!